TE Talks with Guides is a weekly podcast for lovers of history, travel, and all things Italian. Welcome back, everybody, to TE Talks, sponsored by Through Eternity Tours. I'm your host, Rob Allen, and on TE Talks, we get to talk with some of the most fascinating people who make a living out of being wonderful storytellers. Now, please always remember, if you enjoy this podcast and you have listened to some of our others, please remember to write a review and give us a 5 stars rating. It's so extremely helpful for us to get the word out and let other people know who we are and what we are doing. I'm so excited today. We have a very special guest with us, and it's something that I'm going to try to do as much as possible, is that we are having published authors. So we have Francesca Valente with us today. Ciao, Francesca.
Ciao.
How are you?
Fine. Thanks. How are you?
Great. It's a lovely segue, everybody, because Francesca, just to explain a little bit about her from my point of view, is that she is an official guide of Rome. So she worked with us as a guide. Then at a certain point, she started to work with us in the office. You are an archaeologist as well. We'll go into that. But you're also, and you wrote blogs for us, and then you are a published author. So tell the audience a little bit about who you are.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, first of all.
It's a great pleasure for me.
To everybody. So, yes, I'm Francesca. I'm from Rome. And since I was little, I was really passionate about 2 things mostly. One was archaeology, and the other one was everything about like tarot, exoterism, and all this stuff. And it really, I'd like also to show that there is a connection. It seems like we're like 2 things that are so far apart, and instead they're not. There's a connection about that. Also, Indiana Jones was into this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So, that's the main character that inspired me.
Really? Indiana Jones? Well, that's a great inspiration.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I was in love with him, basically.
Many people are.
So I decided to follow in his footsteps. So yeah, since I was little, I was really passionate about archaeology, and my parents always used to take me to see the Roman Forum, the Colosseum, all the museums and all that stuff. So that's why I also decided to take classical studies for the high school. So the Liceo Classico, it's basically where you study Latin and Greek as main subjects, as well as mythology, history, and all that stuff. And then after that, I decided to go straight to the university and into archaeology, of course. And then I became very passionate. In reality, when I started, as most archaeologists, I was convinced that I wanted to do Egyptology, always because of Indiana Jones, I believe. So there was like a theme. But then I changed and I fell in love with Christian archaeology. So everything with that had to do with the beginning, really, of the Christianity, especially in Rome or in Italy. But I studied here in Rome, and also I lived in France for about 1 year. I worked for the Louvre Museum. I helped them making a sort of catalog of all the vases and little artifacts they had, because they were basically moving all this stuff from a warehouse that was underground, that was freezing cold where I was there.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I was always worried that I might break something at some point. And
that did not happen.
No, luckily it didn't happen. And oil lamps, and also things from Palestine from the early Christian centuries.
Wow.
And I came back. After the master's degree, I graduated always in Christian archaeology, and then I decided to study more, always about the Christianity, and in particular the iconography. So basically study the first images, the first paintings, the first statues, and always things connected to the Christianity. And I did that in the Vatican, where I took this specialization for 2 more years. And then so I focused more, started giving conferences. And then after that, I started giving tours for you for to eternity.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I was very much, I remember we had interviewed and I enjoyed your work because you were so very specific, but also very entertaining because you enjoyed the work. You kind of were amused sometimes. You had nice little jokes inside it. I really, really liked your style. I also, because I know a lot of this stuff myself, but when I'm learning things from people after I've studied it myself, I really was very happy because I felt like I wanted people who worked with me that I could learn from, who's not going to be saying the same things that I've said or wrote things, kind of generic things. You were very, very much into great, wonderful details. Now, I do want to bring up just one thing because you did mention it, and I may have mentioned it before, but every time people can always learn about this. It's an interesting aspect that's very different from other cultures, as far as I know, definitely in America, is that you mentioned that when you went to high school, that you specify, because in high school you need to make a choice of what you want to specialize in. So engineering or mathematics, science is one kind. And then a great one is Liceo Classico, which is where as you've gone through what you study, which is wonderful. It's probably one of the hardest subjects, I would think, for people. One of my partners in the past studied tourism. I believe there's like one on tourism and languages. What are the other subjects that people like high school specifically set for? What, like performing arts, I would imagine, maybe?
Yes. For instance, Caterina, one of our guides and one of my best friends, actually, she did the Liceo Artistico. So basically, it's all about art and it's very practical too. So it's not just art history. Art history is one of the main subjects, of course, but then they do actually like sculpture, painting, so a lot of stuff. Ceramics, pottery. So they do a lot of stuff. It's very, very practical. So, I mean, you need to be very talented. And you have to know it. I mean, because you have to take this decision when you're very young, because as soon as you finish your middle school, you have to make this important decision. So you have to choose your career as a student already when you're so young. So that's another one. And now they also have new high schools that have been created in the past few years. They have, for instance, Liceo delle Scienze Umane. So it's about psychology. It's a high school that focuses on psychology. And
wow, that's a pretty interesting subject to start studying at the high school level.
Yeah. This is another one also about economy. So it's very different. I mean, you can really choose a path that is already very specific.
It is. Yeah, I guess it's just in the States, we just don't do that so much. We want people to get a different, well-rounded education, although you can choose to work in kind of electronics or plumbing or these kinds of things, mechanics. You can do a specialized school for that or get a more well-rounded education. And then you specialize when you go into the university level. Now, to get on this, and I just want to confess with people, because I'm always very, very thankful for Francesca because of her connections, studying and specializing in early Christianity, which of course is very prevalent in Rome. And when I was studying to become a guide, I wanted to be able to see places. And sometimes, they wanted everyone to know everything that Rome had to offer, even places that you would normally not get to see. But for me, I really love to go to see places. That's how I remember things. People are always, your clients always say, how is it that you remember stuff? And for me, it was by studying and seeing it. And so there were two specific places that I just couldn't get in my mind. And because of your connections, I asked you, and you're very kind, and you were able to get us this. It's like only like once a year we could do this stuff with the Riparto that you reached out to about Christian archaeology in Rome and the Vatican specifically. And one was the Hypogeum degli Aureli, and then it was the Dino Compagni, right? Basically, these are two places that were discovered in Rome when Rome was being constructed, as the sprawl of the city happened after the Second World War, that they discovered these two ancient places. So could you tell us just a little bit about these two places?
Of course, particular Dino Compagni, the hypogeum of Dino Compagni, which is, for the few people who have seen it, is really it's unbelievable. It's really amazing. Also, the story of how it was found, because that is something that I studied when I was at the university, but it always stayed with me because it's such an amazing story. Because there was basically, it was 1954. They were building a new building, a condominium, so just an apartment building. And basically they were building the foundations, but they could see they've dug the holes and started pouring the cement.
Yes.
But this hole never seemed to fill up. So for whatever reason, they thought there was something else going on, maybe a chasm or something like that. So the workers decided to just lower themselves down inside this big hole and try to see what was the reason why they couldn't fill it in. And basically they found out that there was like an entire catacomb, but not just like any catacomb, I would say. Like one of the most amazing places with paintings everywhere on the ceiling, on the walls. Yes. And not just that, because the thing that I always loved about that place is I don't know really what's the word in English. In Italian, we say architettura negativa, like negative architecture.
Negative architecture? Ooh,
I don't know. Basically, they recreated in the rocks. They carved the columns, the little rooms. So it's negative because it's not like regular architecture where you build something. Okay. Here you excavate, you dig.
Okay, and then I get it.
Out. So I don't know if there's an expression to say this.
No, I don't know. I'd have to probably look it up and then we can write it through. But I do understand the sense you're talking about where they have to destroy something. It's not like they're creating a construction. They're already creating a shelter and then recreating architectural columns and stuff that aren't necessary to hold anything up, but they're there for the beauty of it. I mean, you guys have no idea, but it's a random street where you pull up a metal door outside near the Parco della Caffarella. No one would know about it, but there are oftentimes guides when we're studying things, or maybe in art history, they often refer to, because in the Renaissance, Michelangelo's ceiling in the Sistine Chapel in general was considered like the apex of the Renaissance by some. So they often refer to things as the Sistine Chapel of, like the Gothic room at San Clemente is like the Sistine Chapel of this kind of type of 12th century, 13th century fresco painting.
Of the Middle Ages, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this is referred to as the Sistine Chapel of early Christian fresco painting. And if anybody's ever gone to the catacombs, because a lot of times they were still open to the public and people would go through, they're heavily damaged and they have been, had, exposure to humidity and whatnot, much more so than this, which was completely blocked off. And so this was, thanks to you, we got to see this, and it was in perfect condition. And it was just a group of us, like 8 of us, that were allowed to go through. In fact, it's so hard to see, get access to. Even my teachers, when I invited them, Simone and Alessandro Locchi, I said, hey, do you guys want to check it out? They're like, yes. They were very, very happy to go and check it out. So you got me in the good books with also the teachers of the course. So that was also very convenient. But it was just so beautiful. It was well illuminated. This is not something that is open to the public. No. You have to get very special permissions to see this.
Yeah, and actually, I heard that it's been closed for a while now because they were doing some restoration works. So it's been closed for a few years because the problem is that they eventually built the building they were starting to build at the time when they discovered it, which was a bit controversial, as you can imagine.
Sure, because it could collapse,
God. So, every now and then there are problems and they need to fix them. They need to close the catacombs and make sure that everything is all right. Because, we're talking about a place that is completely painted, really, from the floor to the ceiling. Yeah. We have these columns that are painted. Even the columns are painted, covered with stucco to imitate the marble. So they did an amazing job to try and recreate what the buildings of, let's say, above the ground were like. And they did the same thing underground with paintings. So they recreated the marble with all these paintings and stuff that is really amazing. Mm-hmm. Plus, the thing that really I love most about that place is the fact that we really know almost nothing about the owners. So we literally don't know who built it, but for sure it must have been a very prominent family. They must have been wealthy, of course, otherwise you wouldn't be able to have a catacomb just for yourself.
Sure.
But the thing is, it was a catacomb for a family, and probably the members of this family were not all Christians. Like, some of them were for sure Christian. We know that because the rooms, the cubicles are the little rooms where more people were buried. Some of these rooms are painted clearly with scenes from the Old or New Testament of the Bible. So we can recognize them. We can tell that those people were Christian, of course. But other rooms are painted with pagan gods.
Yeah.
They were part of the same family. They lived together. They even wanted to be buried together.
Sure.
So this is really, I think it's an amazing message.
It is. It's like, I think one assumes, or at least I did, and I didn't have a great education in religion when I was younger. We weren't brought up with a religion, really. You just think, okay, it just switched over. But of course, this is not that. It's like everyone was pagan, and then one year, and then everyone's like, okay, now we're all Christians or whatever. It was a huge transition from that. And it must have been, it's interesting thinking about, like, politically, different families. Are we Democrats or Republicans? Are we pagans or are we Christians? And, like, will we be buried together? I know it's kind of a simplistic thing, but it truly is fascinating when you're able to see these kinds of things. And the hypogeum degli Aureli is also fascinating because it has beautiful mosaic floors that you can see the members of the families there. I can't remember where that must also have been Christian, because that's how we had access to it, or we don't know, but we know it's an underground. Hypogeum means underground. And remember, everybody, that Rome is filled with underground stuff, treasures.
Yes. The hypogeum of the Aureli, at least we know the name of the family, because as you mentioned, it's basically, there's this beautiful mosaic with the names of every single member of the people who were buried there. And we believe, we don't even know, because they call themselves brothers, but that's a tricky word, because we don't know if it's brothers like blood brothers, family brothers, or if they're brothers in the faith. I don't know.
Interesting.
So that's in reality, we don't even know if it's Christian or not. That's a funny story as well, because they found it, they discovered it by accident, as usual in Rome. I mean, as soon as you dig a hole, something will come out.
And sinkholes often pop up in Rome too.
Yeah, exactly. And basically they were building allora, I don't know the word in English, concessionario, where they sell the cars.
Yeah, you mean a car dealership. Yeah, that's right. That's right. There is one right around the corner from it. Okay, yeah.
And they built it, because the funny thing is always that they do build it after that. But basically, since they didn't know if it were Christian or not, because of the paintings, because the paintings are not really easy to understand. Also because this hypogeum dates back to the 3rd century AD, which is really the moment when we have the first paintings, the first Christian paintings, which look very, very similar to the pagan paintings. So it's hard to tell the difference. Also because we always have to remember that the Christians did not want to be recognized as Christians, especially in times of persecution. So you would not go around and advertise that you are a Christian. So they would try and choose iconographies like of good shepherds, lambs, things that were not clearly recognizable as Christians. So the thing is that the Pontifical Commission for Sacred Archaeology, they declared that it was Christian, even though they didn't know it. They thought it might have been, but maybe not, because they wanted to protect it. Because the law here in Italy is that if a monument is Christian, it belongs to the Vatican. So basically in the Vatican, they have this very good department of Christian archaeology. That is where I studied, and also where I worked for a while. And so to protect it, to keep it under the protection of their superintendency, they declared that the hypogeum was Christian, even though there was no way to tell, basically.
Wow. So that does that law still exist today? So basically you're saying if anything is discovered and it's claimed as Christian, they will have the authority. It belongs to the church.
See, so they can they can protect it. They can decide. All the catacombs in Rome, they are, let's say, under the authority, under the protection of the superintendency for the, let's say, the Pontifical Superintendency for Christian Archaeology. My professor is the superintendent.
There we go.
He's the one who got all the keys to open all these sites. And I mean,
that's how we were able to get to see some of these places. That's really wonderful. I'm very thankful for it. Anyway, to go through this, and I thought since it was such an opportunity, everybody, that this is being recorded on the day after the Feast of the Epiphany, or La Befana, which is, the end of the Christmas season. To share with you guys all, when we have our website, we view traffic that's come to our website. We have a blog page that we want to attract people to come and see stuff on the website. Now, one thing has become a kind of viral success sensation is a blog page that Francesca wrote, and it's called The 7 Pagan Festivals We Still Celebrate Today. And this was printed up on, I think what it says, the 22nd of March in 2019. And you go over holidays of pagan origins: Christmas, New Year's Day, Easter, the Roman version of Halloween, May 1st, Epiphany or the Three Kings Day, and St. John's Eve. Now, just to let everybody know, and why I wanted to talk to Francesca about this, is that this, like, if we have over 1,500 people or 2,000 people look at our site in a day, easily 500 to 700 people have clicked onto the site because of this specific blog. Now, we will include it in our notes somewhere that you guys can be able to see it yourselves, but it's kind of amazing. So tell me about this, Francesca. What made you want to write about it? And what do you feel about the success? Why do you think it's so successful?
Well, I think it's something that it's interesting probably to people because we all know our celebrations. We celebrate them every year. We all know Christmas. We know how we celebrate it, what it means. But then I think it's fascinating to discover that something like that existed even before Jesus. And so that basically we've been doing the same things our ancestors have been doing like 2,000 years ago and more. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very surprising thing because it's something that you think you know so well, and instead it turns to be something else, let's say, or maybe not even something else. It's something that connects you, really brings out a connection with our roots, with our ancestors. So, that's the thing that really fascinated me, that we're not so far from them at all.
No. Mm-hmm. I think it's rather comforting. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, as we've gone through the probably the most significant festivals of the year on the Christian calendar, and also for other religions, is basically around the time when the days become the shortest. And let's talk about, it's really in the Northern Hemisphere that these rituals have kind of started, these holidays, more so than the Southern Hemisphere. We've had people colonize and move to Australia or South America, but a lot of what we celebrate is, at the time when it's the coldest and darkest time of the year, right? And so it's a celebration of that ending, and then the light coming. The days are going to start to get longer, right?
Yeah, see. The Epiphany, it's all about that, actually, because these are like the 12 nights that separate Christmas, let's say, from the actual Epiphany. And even the Epiphany is something that goes back to the Romans, who were not celebrating the Epiphany, so basically when Jesus manifested himself to the Magi kings, but they were celebrating Artemis, Diana, the goddess.
Okay.
And two minor, pretty obscure goddesses, Sasha and Abunzia, that basically are abundance and the sense of like satiety.
Okay. Okay. So this was like.
Right. See, and basically it's like they were celebrating these nights that eventually lead up to Epiphany, to the day that we call Epiphany nowadays, because these were like the last and the coldest night of winter before the sun eventually starts to be, we have like longer days.
Uh-huh.
and then the earth is warm. So it's all about like hoping to bring about like eventually spring. So it's a sort of propitiatory thing to hope that the sun will make it like every year. So it's all about celebrating the cycle of the year.
It's
Every
like the end of the
year.
year and the beginning of the new one. I love that. I'm very fascinated by those things that almost are becoming forgotten in other cultures. Like in the United States, usually Christmas is over after New Year's. It's like the second of New Year,
Ah,
it's like done. But, in a lot of Latin cultures, they still celebrate. I remember in Puerto Rico, I was there. They were celebrating the festival of the Three Kings Day, and I really like it because for me, it's Christmas. Well, my partner and I just love Christmas. We put up our Christmas tree. It's a fake tree, so it's in the beginning of November, and it'll be coming down now after the end of after the end of the day after the Epiphany, right? So we should be getting it down now soon, hopefully. But yeah, no, I love it. And I love the extent. And I think that those 12 days should be recognized because those are the 12 days of Christmas, right? It's after Christmas. So it's like the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I'm adamant about it, but I'm sure you enjoy certain things too. But
yeah.
I find those religions, and I find that the connections to the ancient world is comforting. I
It
think
is. It is.
like this, we're participating in something that's been celebrated in some form through centuries, I think. And of course, because what is it also about in these times is about being connected to your family or the people that you love in your life, your dear friends or loved ones, be it by blood or not. But there is that time to connect and be together, which I think is quite wonderful. So I guess that's a really good, interesting let's say, reason why the page has become such a success.
Yeah, maybe we all want to feel connected to our ancestors. No, it's our family in a way.
Yeah. Yep. And remember with the ancient Romans, which I was always fascinated, even in the HBO series Rome, I mean, in other cultures too, there is very much this connection to the ancestors, the ones that were passed away. I remember the aristocracy of ancient Rome, right? When a great figure, a patriarch of the family would die, then they would have hire actors to wear the death masks of the previous people who had died, which are kept in a room in the domus, the Roman houses. And then they would act because they really believed that the dead were alive in a sense of the word, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, which I think is
the mask was casted really directly on the face of the person when they died.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was an actual mask. It's not something like made by an artist. It's the actual face of the person.
Exactly. And, it's interesting also, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but, we did a 4K walk for Halloween of walking through the Verrano cemetery, that with Italian cemeteries, often you will have an image of the person who has passed away, who is buried there. Their remains are there, but they'll have the photograph of them, plus an electric light, which for me was also very reminiscent of the catacombs where they had oil lamps for the dead. So it's always these connections to the history. Although, I'm like, of course, because I'm vain and silly, I'm like, well, if I'm going to die and I live till I'm 90, I'm going to have a picture of myself when I'm 35. I want a death mask of do a death mask of my face now, not when I'm 85 or 90. But, maybe with Botox, we won't have that issue. But listen, so I thought because of this, and this is the perfect time to talk about these rituals. Do you have a specific holiday that you prefer, that you like a lot? Like, what is your favorite holiday?
Well, I like a lot Christmas, as I believe most people. So my Christmas tree, I was laughing when you were saying that you build your Christmas tree in November, but then you take it away now, pretty much. I'll probably keep it until the end of February.
Good for you. No, we do that too, but we have to move house. But yeah, we've done that. We've done that too. I admit it. It was so funny because I was listening to a podcast with the drag queens, and one of them just said, I get so depressed. It was like such a difficult time during the pandemic. He said, you know what? I'm going to keep up my tree. And so he had the Christmas tree, then it became an Easter tree, and then it became a Mother's Day tree, and then it became 4th of July tree and a Halloween tree, and back to a Christmas tree.
That's nice. You completed the cycle.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work even to take the ornaments down and put up other ornaments, I would think. way because if I were to do that, I would have to do it and like change the lights. I would not want just white lights. I would have like red lights at a certain time, like orange lights for Halloween. I don't know. Yeah, but I do love that. I mean, look, as you can see here, we still have I have a candle in the window.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that my parents used to have. I think that must be in Holland, they would do this. In the northern countries, they would have the candles lit up in the window.
The actual candles, yes.
Yeah, which I think is it's just beautiful. I love that stuff for me.
Because it's all about the light. I mean, also I think they do it, yes, always in Northern Europe, the 13th of December, Saint Lucia.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Where the girls have the crown with all the candles, very dangerous.
I know. I was thinking, like, what a fire hazard. Well, they didn't have hairspray back then, or the chemicals that people put in their hair today. My God. Do you know once? And in Santa Maria dell'Anima, Andrea and I were walking around. This is the year before the pandemic. No, it was the year of the pandemic, 2020. So it wasn't happening yet. It was after the Feast of the Epiphany. It was like the 10th of January or something. I don't know why, but Santa Maria dell'Anima is this German church. They had Christmas trees, beautiful real trees still in the church. And there was at night, there was a mass going on, and the trees were covered with candles that were lit. Real candles that were lit. I mean, it's just really, really stunning. I mean, of course, it's like such a fire hazard you want to do, but I didn't understand why. And I even went back recently in Rome and I asked a woman working the information. She had no idea what I was talking about. But I don't know why the ceremony was going on, but it was just really, really beautiful. And of course, Christmas trees themselves are very pagan, right? I mean,
they are. And actually, they're not Italian at all. Want to
they're German, right?
Yeah, they're German. They're German.
Santa Maria dell'Anima is very much a German church.
Exactly, because in fact, also the Vatican didn't want to have a Christmas tree until I think the year 2000 or 2001. So it's fairly recent for the Vatican. We all know the famous Christmas tree in St. Peter's Square, but they didn't want it until very few years ago.
Really? Did they not put a tree up before?
I think it was John Paul II who brought it.
Wow.
It was considered, pretty pagan.
Well, there we go. Well, what is it called? To put a spin on something? And use it for your own purposes.
And actually, not only pagan, but Protestant, because the Protestants, they had it before. They had the Christmas tree, but also why? Because the Protestants, clearly, it's all the Northern Europe area, the German, English. So for them, it was more something that was part of their tradition already, from apparently the Christmas, not really the Christmas tree, but the idea of decorating a tree mostly with food or fruit or things like that in the middle of winter was something that was done by German populations, from Vikings and all the people that were worshipping Odin and Thor. And in fact, both Odin and Thor, they had their own sacred trees, pretty much like the Greek gods.
Sure.
Everyone has his own tree or animal. Same thing also for Odin and Thor. So the idea was that in the middle of winter, when the nature is dead, so to bring forth the hope that the cycle will renew itself, and that you will have spring and abundance again, they would decorate the trees with fruit or things they had saved from the harvest. So the idea was it was always like a ritual to bring about spring and the renewal. Yeah,
it's true. And it's always good to have the hope. And I was thinking also about because every year Italy has very much these connections of, and England and other areas of special meals, of the, we kind of take this for granted, but I think back in the day, when wealth was not splendor, for everybody, that, oranges, lemons, grapes, so the raisins, the nuts, all of this stuff is very rich when it's incorporated into desserts. But the panettone or Christmas pudding, they're all filled with these things. This was kind of like, and that's why the Christmas meal was always such a special meal, because it was once a year kind of a thing, because not everyone could afford these kinds of things to eat all the time. But they are very, very rich. My family, my mother's mother was from Liverpool, and so we even had a Christmas pudding at Thanksgiving, and then we would also do it at Christmas. And so we always light it with brandy. We cover it with brandy, and we light the pudding. One time, my mother set herself on fire. She had a very puffy sweater on, but she put it out. She was like the consummate hostess. She just like, we were all gonna like, oh my God, my mother's gonna. I was like, stop, drop, and roll, stop, drop, and roll. But she just kind of delicately put it out and then served the Christmas pudding after she lit herself on fire. And every year we always
picture her doing that.
Yeah, it's like every year now we always think, I remember when mom lit herself on fire. It was for Thanksgiving. It was for a bunch of people. My friends were there too, so we all remember it quite well. But for everyone who knows, my mother's doing lovely. She's doing quite well, so don't worry about her. But anyway, gosh, it's so wonderful to do this, to talk about this. Now, I would though love to segue into something, because you are a published author. Now you have well, let's go through the books that you've been doing. You now have a book published in English.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, it's almost like they're a series, they're all connected. So tell us about your first books that are published in Italian, and then we'll go into your book in English and who helped translate it for you. It's all, all the big bag TE family.
Exactly. So my first book is this one, L'Oracolo dell'Apocalisse.
So the Oracle of the Apocalypse. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it about? What does it specify?
This is about, so this is based also as the second book that I wrote. It's based on my thesis from my master's degree, because since I was already specializing in early Christian iconography, I chose to study the Book of Revelations. So that's why Apocalypse. No, I think in English it's more called the Book of Revelations.
Yeah, the Book of Revelations. Yeah. Sure.
See, but in reality, because that's the meaning of the word apocalypse. Now, when we think about an apocalypse, it's very negative. Now,
yes,
it's like a catastrophe or
the end of all things, kind of.
Exactly, the last judgment and all that stuff. But in reality, the actual meaning of the word apocalypse is revelation. It's from Greek. See, it's like lifting the veil, literally.
This is fascinating to me always. These words that come out, like I remember learning once, but these are all these lovely tidbits also in your guide. But angelus in Greek really means a messenger.
A messenger, yes. It comes from the verb angello, that is like bring and then announce something, like
sure.
So, and basically this is about, it's based on the Book of Revelations, but this is a book that comes with a set of cards. Because since I was little, since I was 10 years old, I developed like a passion for tarot cards, oracles, and all this stuff. And I come from a Catholic family, so for my parents, it was quite
shocking for them.
Okay. For my mother in particular, also because the Vatican really doesn't approve of this kind of
tarot readings. Yes.
So yeah, but I mean, so I started studying the tarot because my father gifted me a tarot deck. My mother actually took it away and locked it away until I was 18.
Really? See, how old were you when you first got it?
10.
10. So she locked it.
She locked it away, but then I started reading poker cards. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Didn't work too well.
Then I studied really any kind of divination. I studied like from the Celtic Ogham, from tea leaf reading, palmistry, and like anything. I love this kind of stuff. So after I did my thesis, I decided that I wanted to do a book with a deck based on the apocalypse, because the apocalypse is all about these very powerful images that in fact we find sometimes in the churches of Rome, like the lamp, the scroll with the 7 seals, the candelabra, the elders, and all these images. So I decided just to work with an artist, and she did the illustrations for the cards.
Wow. So it's like you wrote a book and you also had the illustrations for the cards. These are wonderful.
This is like the bride of the lamp. This is the door in the sky. So it's based on the Book of Revelations. It's based on the descriptions of the visions that St. John had. And the actual iconography is based on a lot of research that I did on medieval manuscripts, paintings in the churches, because I wanted to be really close to what people might be able to see visiting the churches in Rome, or reading the maybe ancient illustrated books. And so basically with the guide of the book tells you all about the apocalypse. Sorry, I have a singing bird.
Who wants to tell us about the apocalypse as well?
So I have this, because me and my husband and I were bird watchers. So every hour we have a different bird that sings and announces the hour. And so basically,
that's your clock. That was.
I gifted it to my husband this Christmas.
Did you? Oh gosh, we could talk about birds. Talk about Christmas birds. My favorite bird is the cardinal, the red cardinal that doesn't exist.
I remember that.
Oh God, they're so beautiful. They fly in because we have these azalea bushes, forsythia bushes, and they would, because the leaves are gone, they just sit on the bushes right outside our dining room. We can always see them, and the females are beautiful too. I have to show you progress. Anyway, getting back on track.
And so basically, reading the book, you can learn everything about the book of Revelation, also who the author was. And I say that because we always say it's St. John, but in reality, it's not really. For sure, or we don't know if it's the same St. John who wrote the gospel, or if it's a different St. John. We don't know.
Okay.
So there's a lot of debate.
Okay, not to be confused with St. John the Baptist.
But you can also learn to read the cards. Basically, you can use them as tarot.
That's great. So when you purchase the book, do the cards come with the book?
They come in a set, yes.
Oh, lovely. Okay. And you told me before we even started our recording that they are sold out now, right? The first printing is sold out.
The second book is sold out. The first one, not yet.
Okay.
But my second book is based on another thesis that I wrote.
Wow. The Oracle of the Doors.
The Doors.
Delle Porte. It always sounds nicer in Italian. Okay. Tell us about this.
For my undergraduate, I don't know if it's the same also in the US, but also for the undergraduate, we have to write a little thesis, like an essay, but longer on a subject. And I chose the door of Santa Sabina. This is a wonderful church on the Aventine Hill, and it's one of the ancient churches and the most ancient door in the whole world, dating back to 422 AD, which is all made of wood. With carvings from the Bible, the Gospel.
Yeah, we have a TE Destinations video with John Tinto going on the Aventine Hill, and we cover the door of Santa Sabina because it's one of the oldest doors and one of the first depictions of Christ on a cross. Exactly,
the very first.
Yes.
The very first. See, that's an amazing door. I mean, we don't have any other door that is like 1,600 years old and still almost intact. I mean,
no, it is. People don't. It's like these are these things that people, and especially in Rome and a lot of places in Italy, people don't even realize. We just walk by them.
I mean, you have to know it also because it's closed in the corridor. People normally enter from the other door on the side.
Yeah, from the side now, and they don't go out to that little narthex in front of the church.
Yeah.
So this is the one that's become a huge success, and it's sold out in Italian.
Because I got into the symbolism of the door, which is really universal. Like every culture has something to say about doors. Like the Romans even had a god, Janus.
Yes, exactly. Of course. And of course, January, the symbol of New Year's, the old man and a newborn baby, beginnings and endings.
Exactly. And that was pretty much universal because the Greeks also had like Hermes that had some connection with the door. In Egypt, they had a lot of stuff about the doors. They would even carve fake doors inside the pyramids because it was a passage, a gate for the soul of the dead to go to the other side. So like pretty much every culture had something. We have the Holy Door in St. Peter's Basilica and all the other main basilicas. It's the same. It's the idea of like crossing a threshold.
Yes, which is a very important
magic door.
Of a ritual, also like when people are married for the first time, right? You carry your wife through the threshold. You carry her through, right?
Exactly. So it's always that.
Things.
So
I love
because
this.
the door itself is a symbol that it's very powerful, and so all the cultures, they recognized it. And the interesting thing is that the meaning is pretty similar. So that's another thing about connection, not that even cultures
Wow.
that are so far away, they never met each other, but still they think the same things, let's say, about the door. And all this, also this book comes with a little deck that was illustrated by the same artist. This is, for instance, it's a mythological creature that is from Babylonia.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So that's really just and
Beautiful.
also see, there's
Have you?
this Hermes. So it's always based on the mythology and everything that is connected to the door. This is the holy door in Jerusalem, where according to Jewish people, there's this ancient tradition according to which the Messiah will appear here.
Oh God, these are really great. No, okay, Francesca, because of course I'm always thinking about marketing. Do you have an Instagram page with these cards?
I do. It's
Okay.
called Gli Oracoli di Francesca. It's pretty.
The Oracles of Francesca. Okay, so but you put up the images of the cards, right?
Easy, because I do also interactive readings where people can choose
Oh,
their
that's
cards.
wonderful. No, but they're really beautiful, those cards.
The artist is really good, Mariuccia D'Angiò. She's the mother of a very good friend of mine. And
Okay.
she's an artist. She used to teach art as well. So
That's wonderful. I would love to talk to you about how, I mean, that could be another time, or we could just do it, how it is it that you got this book published, and you also got someone to develop the cards for you and produce them. So those are very commendable things, not easy to do.
No, no, but still, I mean, I have to say that I was pretty lucky, because it took me 2 weeks to find the publishing house, because they immediately liked the project, the first one, the Oracle of the Apocalypse, let's say.
Sure.
And then they asked me if I had already another project, and I already had the project of the Oracle of the Doors. So I published them, I think, a few months one after the other. So
That's
really nice.
that's great. That's wonderful. Now let us go into the segue about this, because and strangely enough, so this is very interesting, guys. If you guys don't know this, but I'm always amazed by how small the world is. Okay, so you are now a published author, also in English. Now, and it's this book is titled "The Oracle of the Trees."
Yeah.
Now, was it originally written and published in Italy, or is it only done?
This is only in English so far.
Okay, great. I enjoyed this. And the art cover, is it done by the same person who did the cards for you?
It is. Although
Lovely.
the style, it's a little bit different.
Sure.
But it's a lot, there are a lot of more details. So it's really, it took her a lot of work, I have to say, to do this. But this is a very nice set, also because it comes with a very nice box. So also, it's this publishing house, US Games. It's I have to say, I'm very proud to say this, it's the publishing house that brought the tarot for the first time in the US. They're the first ones who published the tarot in the US for the first time.
That's amazing. That's why I was talking about how small the world is, because it is in Stamford, Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I'm from. For people who don't know, I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. And strangely enough, my little neighborhood where I lived, which was called Highcliffe, right up the street, a girl that, my families, we grew up together. In fact, she ended up, and we were in the same choir together, and chamber singers in high school. And she brought me into the choir. And then one of my best friends, I was the best man at her wedding. Peter was his name, but Ann Flounders, she worked with this company. So, I mean, it's just incredible, these connections that happen, coming all the way from Rome, ending up having you work with me. And then I find out that your book is published by a company that I am dear friends with, someone who worked in this company. It's
crazy. I mean,
do you know there was actually even another person when I was 6, 7 years old, she also lived in Highcliffe, and she ended up marrying an Italian, and living in Rome as well. Her name was Alyssa Weinstein, who also knows Anne. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me how small the world is. But so you got this book. Now, you wrote this in Italian.
I did. But then, and I worked always with the same artist. She did all the art, and
beautiful.
It's really beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then I had my dear friend and colleague Thomas Robinson from Through Eternity, translated beautifully into English.
Yes, I mean, I have to tell you, with Thomas has been on a few of the TE YouTube channel videos, and also he's been one of our most popular listeners. She said some of the most downloads. You know, he's done a couple of these podcasts. He did a fascinating one about the Grand Tour. He did one also about Charlemagne and the Middle Ages in Rome, because that's the area that he loves. That's probably why you guys get along so well. So, and he's a wonderful storyteller. So he must have done a great job translating.
He did. And it was, I mean, it was not easy, because the subject of the book is very complex, because I also give a description, a botanical description for each tree.
Oh, wow.
Plus a part on the symbolism, the history, religion. So it's very, there are a lot of things, very different things covered in the book, because for each tree, so the idea, it's a little bit like the doors. This took me 2 years, because I had to do a lot of research.
I would imagine.
Because I had to find out a lot about all the trees, the sacred trees, but all over the world, because I didn't want it to be just connected to Italy or to Rome or to one place, but I wanted to be as universal as possible. So I had to study like everything about trees, and I found out that in reality the tree is like the door, so it's a universal symbol. If you think about how many trees that are venerated and worshipped all over the world, and we don't even know. I mean, for instance, one thing that I didn't know, Buddha, he was inspired under a tree, under a fig tree, for instance. Or Padre Pio, no, the saint, he received the stigmata under a tree while he was praying under a tree.
Oh, like Saint Dominic as well had an important tree, right?
Yeah, of course, the orange tree, the one that is in Santa Sabina. So here we are again.
Here we are again.
And or if we think about the Bible, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge,
of course,
the cross of Jesus. But there's so much about it. If you think about the Greek gods, everyone has his own tree. Like Zeus has the oak, and we have
Apollo has the laurel tree.
The laurel tree, yeah.
Yes.
So, but
cypress tree for Pluto, or of Hades, which I love too, which you always see in cemeteries now.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Or the grapevines with Dionysus. Or even, but not just the Greeks, like everywhere, even the Mayan in South America, they had the kapok tree. It's called also the cotton tree. That was they believed it was a sort of cosmic tree, like an axis connecting the earth, like the living with the gods, which is pretty much the same thing that the Vikings and the Germans as well had with Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil is this ash tree that connects all the world, like the world.
Yes, it's supposed to. Yeah. Isn't it with Ragnarok? It's supposed to be cut down.
Exactly. Yes. So there is a rooster on top of the Yggdrasil tree, and then at the end of the world, the Ragnarok, the rooster will sing, and then everything will start. Like, for instance, this is Buddha.
There we go. Okay.
Meditating under the tree.
Okay,
that's
great.
The tree of life.
Okay. This is great. I'm going to put this up on our YouTube channel as well, because I would love to have these images. So many things that we've spoken about.
No, that's Yggdrasil, the ash tree with all the 9 worlds. This was really.
Oh my God, with the 9 worlds, of course, and the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost or Bifrost.
Exactly, yes, that's the one. And all the little animals They
Uh-huh.
are animals that are present in the mythology, and they live among the branches of the tree or between the
Wow.
roots. So it's very detailed. Really, the artist did a great job because I was very specific. I give her all the descriptions.
My gosh, that's a lot of well, that's
Forward.
fascinating. This is fantastic. And how's it going? Are people getting interested in the book, or do you think
Yes,
time?
yes. I received the first report of the sales, and
Oh,
I'm surprised because I mean I'm a new author in Italy. I mean they know me for these other two books, but
uh-huh.
in the US I'm like a new author, so I'm surprised, and I also got a very nice feedback from
Uh-huh.
people who are using it. So I'm very happy about that.
This is great. This is wonderful. So if we were going to say right now, because people are listening, because we can write this, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we can also put the links on our BuzzFeed, not BuzzFeed, excuse me, Buzzsprout podcast channel. But how would people be able? I also want to be able to sell this on the website. How can people get access to this book? Like, why don't you tell us what's the best way to get access to buy the book for reading?
Basically depends on where you are, because in Italy, luckily, if you live in Italy, you can get it on Amazon, like the
Uh-huh.
Italian Amazon. So
Okay.
but if you in England, I'm pretty sure it's distributed by a website called the Book Depository.
Okay.
While in the US, it's much easier because it's on Amazon. You can find it in Barnes and Noble. It's the name of the famous bookstore, Barnes and
Okay.
Noble, I think.
Great.
So, I mean, you can find it in physical places, not just online in the US. You can find it in bookshops
Okay.
or otherwise on the website of the publishing house. It's called US Games.
Yes. US Game Systems Incorporated or usgames.com/oracle dash of dash the dash
Okay.
trees. Well,
Look it
well,
up.
I
It's
will.
one of the first pages that comes up. See.
Ah, lovely. Love it. And when was this published? When did it come
This
out?
year, this
This
year,
year. Oh, well, perfect.
June the 1st.
Serendipitous time to talk about this. Well, before we finish up, I did want to ask you one thing because you're talking about pagan culture, because you're the person probably the best to answer this. Now, another tradition of Christmas is the Advent calendar, right? The days, the 1st of December is the beginning of the Advent until the 24th. Now, when I was doing my virtual tour for St. Peter's Basilica, I was reading about this in this wonderful book about St. Peter's, because St. Peter's was originally, the old church was for the emperors, the Byzantine emperors in Constantinople when they would come to visit, and it was a visit of an emperor was considered the Advent. Now, have you ever heard about that as
Yes,
well?
it's the so-called Adventus Imperialis.
Ah,
See,
ecco.
it's literally the coming of the emperor. Yes, there was like a ritual because of course they would go through the arches.
Mhm.
Also in the hypogeum, the Apogeo
Ah,
degli Aureli, we saw
uh-huh.
the so-called scene of the Adventus because there's this person who is going through an arch and is on horseback and is
Okay.
saluting like this, and we don't know what he's doing, if he's dying and going, he's crossing the
Off
thing.
the it's the evidence of the heaven. So obviously this is an Advent, it's the preparation for this ritual that was originally for the emperors, and it is kind of this incorporation saying that Christ is the emperor, and it's the advent of the arrival of Christ into the real world. Well, there we go again. So it's reconfirmed for me again. I love that because we always have Advent calendars, but people don't realize that it's become this like Christmas celebration, but originally it was the Advent arrival of an emperor into the city. Was it specifically Rome, or was it anywhere that they would arrive into? I
I
wonder.
think it was mostly for Rome, but also the other cities. If the emperor was visiting some other place,
Mhm.
for sure they had some ritual, of course, to welcome him.
Ah,
But the biggest thing was for sure Rome.
okay. Well, Thank you so much again, Francesca. This has been such a pleasure for me. It makes me think about these rituals right after, because I always get a little sad after, the Christmas holidays are over. But it kind of, as you see, it brings out hope. And certainly talking to you again, because I haven't been able to talk to you in a while, is lovely. It reminds me of how wonderful you are and what you've done for us. And I thank you to the bottom of my heart. And thank you so much for taking the time. And I wish you all the best of luck. And we'll talk more about your book, and we'll try to get links for people to be able to see on the YouTube channel, definitely on the podcast channel, and also the blog that everyone loves so much. Grazie mille, and hope to talk to you soon and bring you back when you have a new book published. Okay.
Of course. Grazie. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to our TE Talks with Guides. We have a new episode every Wednesday. Please subscribe to get an alert when each podcast comes out. Rate us and tell people how you enjoyed it, and share it on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Most importantly, if you enjoyed it, send us a feedback about the show. Also, if you are curious about what some of these people and places we talked about look like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch the video on this podcast, where we have inserted special images for you to further enjoy the story.